All right, so I'm waiting on my Detroit Speed mini tub kit to get here, and I should probably just go ahead and start doing some patching on this inner quarter structure here. It's got rust right along the back edge here where it's rusted out. It's got some rust right there where it's rusted out, and it's got some rust right there where it's rusted out. Now I can get a new patch panel that goes from this tape line down, but it's about 150 bucks and it's about 4 weeks away. So I figured I'd try and patch this up myself. If it goes poorly, I can always get the patch panel afterwards. I'm going to start by using some 18 gauge there and rebuilding this area. Now, I want to make my patch panels kind of with this piece in place, and then whenever I get them and I'm happy with them, then I'll cut it off right along this tape line, pull that piece off, and then I can patch it over here on the bench and then put it back in place, and it should work out pretty well that way. I'll come around here and show you kind of how crusty it is on the inside, because it's got some rust issues and got some corrosion and stuff, and that's kind of the main reason that I'd like to pull it off here, is just so I can get down in there and take care of some of this stuff. Because if you look like right in here, it's got a pretty heavy surface rust on it, and I want to be able to pull that off and take care of that, clean it up and spray it with something to either coat the rust or do something with it. But anyway, I'm going to get to work on this. Here's a little close-up of this area, and you can see how this is chewed up back in here. There's rust kind of in behind this bottom seam down here. This guy here's, it's just gross. So here's a piece of metal that I was originally going to use that to patch up the inner wheelhouse on the driver's side, passenger side. But since I'm not doing that anymore, I think it'll fit in here just fine. Now this area here has got a curve this way, and then it's also got a curve this way to go up and meet this. This is part of the quarter panel there. So it's got to go up and cover all of this. So I'm going to beat on it with a hammer a little bit and see what I can come up with. Violence isn't the answer. I get into more trouble beating on stuff with a hammer than I know how to get myself out of. So for this task, I'm going to make a template. And what I've done here is I've taken masking tape and covered this area because some of it's missing. And I can see where all my bends are, right? Where this needs to contour and that needs to contour there. We've got a flat piece here, and this piece down here is mostly flat. It's got a bend in it right there. So what I can do is I can make this in 3 different pieces. Make a piece here, make a piece here, and then make a transition piece that goes in between them and weld it all together. So once I got that marked out, then I used some cereal box or beer box and just made templates of those areas. And those are the 3 pieces that I'm going to be making. 1, 2, and then this guy down here. So let's get to doing that. I can take my template that I've made here and trace it out on my steel and cut it out and then start test fitting. Kick out my piece cutout here. I put a little bend in it there as well. I can fit it up here, and it still needs a little bit of trimming, but I can mark it out and get it trimmed up and get it fitting in here the way that I want it, and then move on to the next piece. All right, just a little more trimming on it and a little more hammer work, and I've got it about where I want it. The main thing is to just try and get it to follow this line a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect because I can cut it down to size, and as well I'll be welding more pieces to it. So just get the basic shape and go on from there. And now I'll make this other flat piece here and see how that ends up. All right, I've made this other piece and I've got it clamped into place where I like it. Now I need a way to hold this in place while I make that piece there and fit it up. I don't have any Clecos, but what I do have is coat hanger wire and a drill bit that's about the same size. I would tack it up here with the welder, but I want to be able to take this off and put it back in the same spot. So I'm going to poke a couple holes in it here and get that hanger to fit through there. So it'll hold it up in place. Okay, I got my makeshift Clecos in there. It's holding it into place. I went ahead and cut out this piece here, which goes right over here. Now I made it substantially larger to make it easier to work with. Sorry. Made it a bit larger than the hole that it's covering. And the reason for that is what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and tack it to that bottom piece that I've got clecoed in, and then I'll tack it to this top piece here, and then I'll just cut off the excess. But I want to make sure that I got it fitting up there nice and tight in the way that I like it. And yeah, let's give her a go. Okay, I got it tacked together here. I know it looks like complete garbage. I did have some trouble with the welds, but it does look like just a bunch of garbage welded together. But I'm gonna cut off the excess, grind it down, weld it up, and see how she looks. All right, just a little bit of cutting and welding, and it's starting to take shape there, starting to look all right. I'll weld it up the rest of the way and get her done up. Okay, I got it all welded up. It's fitting in there pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Might need a little bit more welding and stuff. It's a little bit larger than what I actually want to make it, what I actually want to use, and that's fine because I can just cut off the excess as I go. I'll pull this off here and show you what it looks like on the backside. My redneck Clecos. Here's the back side of it, and yeah, it's just got the nice contours to it that it needed, and I think it'll fit up there just fine. I'm not too worried about this end here where it's not finished out because it's actually longer than it needs to be, and I'll end up cutting that off when the time comes. But as you can see, I made the patch. Now I can decide where I want the patch to go. This contour area, I don't really want to mess with this. Good metal there, rotten metal down here. So I want to cut it just, I want to trim the patch to fit, and I want it to fit right along this line here and then come up and go over. That way it should make it easier to weld if I'm just kind of on top of that ridge. Easier to clean up at least, you know, so I can get this guy trimmed up, and then as well I want to go ahead and cut off these spot welds here, and as well this area up in here, clean that up and get that ready to have this patch go into. Okay, I trimmed up my patch in here, and I cleaned up this area in here, cut off this bottom piece here because I don't need that. Whenever they welded the new quarters on, they actually came around here and welded along this seam, which is going to make it a bit of a pain in the ass, but that's okay. Now that I've done that, I'm going to put this guy in place and actually put a couple tack welds on there and then just leave it. One thing that I learned is with my redneck Clecos, if I bend the end of it, then it won't slide all the way through and I won't have to fish it out of the inside of the thing. So that's a lesson learned. Anyway, let's do that. Okay, I got that tacked into place there where it's going to be. Now I can move on to building a patch for this back end here. I'm just going to leave that tacked for now. Once I cut this off, then I can do the cut and butt there. If you haven't checked out Fitzy's Fabrications here on YouTube, shut off this video and go check him out. That guy's awesome. He does lots of metal fabrication with just simple tools. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Probably tape it up, probably make a template, probably cut some steel. I don't know. Okay, I got this area taped up here. I marked out where all the contours are. Like there's a little bit of a bend down here. This area here is flat right along in here. There's a little bit of a contour in here. There's a little bit of a contour out there. And this here as well has got a little bit of a contour to it. I'm not going to worry too much about this guy. I think instead of doing this one in pieces, I should be able to make this out of a single piece. Just by beating on it. Let's start cutting this and see what we can make. Okay, I've cut this piece here, kind of rough, a little bit bigger than what I really needed. Started marking out where I need to make these bends on it, as well. Made a little bend in the bottom of it here. I'm going to start forming it and see if I can't get it to fit in there. I scribed the inner quarter structure along the edge of that so that I can get it back in the same place just about every time. So let's get to hammering. Okay, just a little quality time with the hammer, and I got her fitting in here pretty good. You can see she's pretty tight right along in there. Looking pretty good. I left this side over here long because I can always cut that off after the fact, but yeah, it's fitting in there pretty good. I don't know if you can see that, if it'll focus, but yeah, it's looking all right. Here it is off there. You can see where I formed it and bent it. Tried to make this area in here because it's got a little bit of a wow in it, so just tried to throw that in there as best I could. So far so good. Okay, I've got it fitting up here. I'm going to drill out this spot weld right here, and then I can clean this area up and tack it into place just like I did that guy, and then I'm one step closer to cutting this thing off there. Okay, I got it all tacked up there. It's looking good. Now I drill out the rest of the spot welds there, up along this brace, and trim off this edge here where they welded that, and then cut it off there, and then I can pull this whole piece off there and finish patching it. All right, let's pull back the curtain and see what we got. Oh, come on. There we go. Oh yeah, that looks nice. Just a little rusty. What's the inside look like? Oh yeah, it's a little crusty, a little rusty. Wouldn't be long before back in there became an issue, but yeah. There we go. Let's assess. All right, I got this piece over here on the bench. I cleaned up the backside of it a bit with the clean and strip disc. It does a pretty good job getting the rust off. I've still got some more cleanup to do here, but first I'm gonna go ahead and cut and butt these patches in. Let's do that, shall we? Okay, I got this first patch here all welded in. It's looking real good. I'm real happy with it. It's all welded up. Gonna look pretty factory, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Now I'm gonna weld this guy in, and then I've got to make a patch for this little piece here, as well as I'll probably clean up this edge here a little bit. Let's do it. As I'm welding this patch here in, I've got to go really slow and be really careful because due to the shape of it, whenever I weld on it, the heat causes this end to pull up, and it wants to curve in. So I've got to take my time and try and keep it straight, flat. But so far so good. She's looking all right. We're gonna get this done up in no time. All right, I've got this end here all welded up and ground down. It's looking really good. I'm pretty happy with it. I think it'll work just fine. Here's the back side of it. Yep, I like it. Okay, now I just got to do this rusty hole here, and I've cut a little piece and contoured it to fit in there, like so. I want to go a little bit wider than these edges here so that it's easier to grind and clean up. So let's do that. Okay, I got that piece there put in. It looks good. I also cleaned up the beauty marks left behind by the spot weld cutter. This thing's just about ready to go back to its home. There's the back side of that. That looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Now I just got to, still got some cleanup to do along this edge here, and as well I need to test fit it and then cut the curve into this end here where the wheel tub mounts. All right, just test fitting this thing in the car a little bit. I welded up the holes that were cut in that edge. Before I cut this piece off here, I took my cutoff wheel and just made a little divot there, and that will help me line it up whenever I go to put it back on there. I also want to be able to quickly and easily fit this thing up and take it off and put it back in the exact same spot. So I'm going to come around over here and drill a couple holes along this edge and use my redneck Clecos so that I have some alignment points that I can use for lining this thing up. Let's do that. Okay, I got my redneck Clecos in here. I went ahead and trimmed off the excess on this end, and I went ahead and trimmed up this edge over here so that it follows the contour. Looks real nice, follows that tub around in there. I cut this here a little bit too wide whenever I was cutting this. If you'll remember, I had this tacked on there and it was overhanging, and anyway, I can fill that, not a big deal. I think I'm going to end this video right here because I've actually accomplished something. I've got to sort out the rust in behind here, maybe sandblast this, maybe spray it with some primer or something, I'm not sure. Anyway, looks good, real happy. Let's keep trucking.